Hey, you guys, welcome to another episode of Fury and Friends. It's Pastor Fury here with none other than Jarael.
Hey, guys.
You guys, we love doing this show. It's one of our favorite things that we get to be a part of because we get to have fun and we get to go deep and share with you guys so many things that are not only going on in our worlds, but invite you into the worlds of some other people that we get to meet. So coming up on today's show, we've got a great interview with Anthony Bobo Jr. He's a guy that I've been connecting with over a cohort that I've been a leadership cohort that I've been a part of all year. And he's one of the leaders there, and I can't wait for you guys to get to know him. And we're going to talk about some shows that we've been watching in one of our favorite segments that I think we're going to keep bringing back. What are we watching? So why don't we go ahead and, waste no time and just dive right into some stuff, huh? So, What are you watching these days, Jarael?
Well, a lot of things. It's like streaming is like taking over. But one thing that I've watched that I really enjoyed was I binged it, of course. It was called Bake Squad. And have you ever seen Master Chef?
Loved Master Chef, yeah.
Yes, it's the female chef, Christina Tochi, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Okay.
But she's like, she pretty much does, things that you bake. I think she's like a pastry chef maybe. And so it's her show, and it's a team of people that she normally works with, and they're competing, but they're not competing for a prize. They're basically competing to make a birthday cake or some type of sweet treat for a family or somebody that comes in that wants to do something. So they made they had a competition for a girl that had cancer. They had a competition for someone's rainbow baby, and just different people came in.
Are the ones competing, are they like amateurs, like regular?
No, they work with Christina.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was fun because they were helping each other as opposed to trying to sabotage each other. It was
right.
Yeah, it was really good. And what I really liked is there's a girl from Chicago on there. I think she's from the Bronzeville area. Her name is Maya Camille Broussard. And she has a place called Justice of the Pies in Chicago. And she makes all these, yes, I think it's on Kedzie. And she makes all these awesome pies, like these gigantic pies too. And I just really like her, and I really just enjoyed this show. And I think she's just like a really good part of this addition to the show too.
So Christina Tucci or whatever her name is.
Yeah, Tochi. Yeah.
Okay, so she's like the one that is she like the ultimate judge essentially of this, and she's the determiner?
Basically, the family chooses.
Oh, okay.
The person that's coming in and requesting the cake, but Christina's kind of like the host and just
and then all of the people compete. How many people is all of them? How many people are like?
4, 2 ladies, 2 men, and they all just make these awesome, life-size cakes. Someone made like a drum set and it was all edible. Just things like that. It's just so cool.
So when so she's intentionally chosen 2 men and 2 ladies, kind of get the gender diversity there. Okay. Yeah. And then in one episode, they are hearing the vision of whatever this person is for their thing, and then they're coming up with their own interpretation of that, and whoever wins. Okay, so then just each week, is it a seasonal show? Or
it was just the first season. I don't know if there's going to be a second, but it was one season. I think maybe 6 episodes, but so each week per se, someone new is coming in, and the cool thing is they get to try each person's sweets, and I'm like, that is awesome.
I would be down for that, just to try. Right. So do you know where she's based out of? Because you said the Maya
or Maya. She's based out of Chicago. Oh yeah.
Oh, the whole thing is based out of Chicago?
No, just Maya. Maya is from like the Bronzeville area, Chicago, and she has a little I don't know if you call it a restaurant, bakery called Justice of the Pies. And she named it that because I think her father was a judge. And she's like she's hearing impaired, and she does a lot of advocacy for like Black disabled lives matter, and then like people who have disabilities but don't look like they have a disability.
Right. Wow,
Yeah.
wow. That's super cool. So then Christina, the one who, so she, when you say works with, so she's basically like connected with kind of like
and I think
large
like
group
maybe
of chefs all over the place.
yeah, and I think like maybe like they'll do like some things together, like events or something like that together. But she seemed like she had, I think she said like they've worked together with all of them before.
Nice. And they come together and make up Bake Squad.
Yes.
Hashtag Bake Squad.
Yes. Check it out.
Nice. So is that on Netflix? Where'd you say that was?
Netflix.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, ironically, my show that I'm watching these days is also a cooking show.
Oh my goodness.
Not connected whatsoever to the fact that you did a cooking show, but I do kind of blame you for it. Because in the last time that we did this segment, one of the shows that you talked about was Only Murders in the Building.
Yeah.
And one of the stars was Selena Gomez. And then we started talking about Selena. I was like, oh yeah, I think I do kind of like Selena Gomez. And I had never really engaged with that thought about her. And then I was flipping through the channels. It's not the same thing as it used to be. I was on my Roku through the different apps. And I decided to check out HBO Max again. And Selena Gomez has a cooking show on there. Yeah. And it was just one thing that I popped on in the background while I was working on some stuff online, and it kind of drew me in a bit. So the idea behind her show is, well, first of all, it's called Selena and Chef. Okay. And the idea was started during quarantine. So the show came out of the fact that everything was shut down and nobody could go anywhere. They weren't able to go to restaurants and all that stuff. And so she, worked with HBO to develop this show where she's in her kitchen and they've got cameras set up like in like 8 different locations all throughout the kitchen, so you can see her no matter where she's going. And then she's, having this live streamed conversation with a chef in their kitchen that has the same setup, and so the chef, each episode, one chef is trying to teach her how to make some like gourmet meal in her own home. So that's cool. It's super cool. And they have 3 seasons right now. They're in the middle of the 3rd season. And I've managed to binge all of it. I've even started cooking some of the stuff from the shows, like, because they have recipes that go along with it that you can print off, and you can like, try to make some of the dishes I've done. Actually, last night I did gnocchi, like pan-seared gnocchi with I used Impossible meat for the meatballs. And then wasn't in the recipe, but another thing I got some collard greens, and made first time I've ever cooked greens. I've always had my mom's greens, and without meat. So normally you throw a ham hock in there or something. But I just was using like some vegetable stock and some other seasonings. It was decent. It was decent. So super like, so I'm a creative, and the reason why I enjoy cooking is because I see it as a major act of creation and self-expression. And so that's re-inspired my cooking creative genes. So I'm looking forward to cooking again. I got some whole tilapia that I'm gonna mess around with. And since Larissa is not gonna see this before our anniversary is on Monday. And I'm doing, so I asked her like a week and a half ago, like, what's something that you wish you could eat that we don't ever have, you know, like that. If there's one meal that you could have right now, what would you want? And she said carbonara. And I was like, really? So, you know, she's Italian, so that's like a spaghetti with egg and the basic version of it here is like bacon, but like the authentic Italian version is with something called guanciale, which is pig cheek. So
I didn't know that.
yeah. And it's a really, really easy actual recipe, but I'm going to take it a notch up and incorporate the teaching that one of the episodes did on a homemade pasta. And I'm going to make homemade spaghetti
My goodness.
and do the carbonara with that. So
that's gonna be so nice.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'll report back on the next episode.
Yes, please do.
But y'all are gonna have to wait, you guys, because this episode actually is the final episode of season 1 of Fury and Friends, episode 7. So you'll find out how that meal went on the beginning of season 2.
It'll be worth the wait.
Yes. So we both are into cooking these days, or watching cooking at least.
Yes.
You know. So there was one show that we discovered that we both had in common. It was a show that you wanted to talk about maybe a few episodes ago, but I hadn't seen it. And then I actually forgot that you mentioned it to me. And then I saw somebody else mention it on Facebook. And I was like, all right, let me go check this out. Show called Midnight Mass on Netflix.
Yeah. Yes.
Yo, that show's crazy.
It's so crazy. And I actually, he has 3 different series on there, like kind of similar. He has The Haunting of Hill House, which is amazing. The Haunting of Bly Manor, I didn't like as much, but it's still good. And then Midnight Mass.
Is that all on Netflix?
All on Netflix, and they all have the same actors. They all just come back as different characters.
Oh.
Yeah.
So Midnight Mass, is it now? So it's not like a series then. It's just like he just keeps doing
3 different stories.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah, because they're scary, but not this type of like horror that you're used to. They're like horror dramas.
Yeah.
They have like a deep like story behind it, and I really like that.
And that was just it for Midnight Mass with me, because I'm not a horror guy. Like I don't really do, like Larissa, she loves horror movies. Like that's her thing, you know. But like I just have never been down with that, you know. I remember as a kid, like I was terrified of, just being honest, like Nightmare on Elm Street gave me nightmares on my street every single night. So it was like, it's not really my thing. And then I think after I came to know the Lord, then I was like, there's too much like reality baked in there that like, no, I don't do the, you know. One of my friends told me once to watch American Horror Story, and like I came back and told her, I was like, you let the devil into my home, like, you know. I was like, no.
I concur with you on that. I felt like I had to do some praying in every room after I watched one episode.
Anointing every doorstep.
I said, oh no, not in this house.
But Midnight Mass, that was different. And what I loved about it was that at its core, I was seeing like this story of, you know, forgiveness and like getting, you know, beyond trauma and the sins and history of our past. And at the same time, like, then there's these moments of like, whoa, what the heck was that? Like, there's like spooky stuff going on. I don't want to spoil stuff for people, but no like
spoiler. It kind of actually reminded me too of our conversation from last week's episode about Gwen Shamblin. Like, just how you could get
Yeah.
so off. Like everything starts off so good, and then next thing you know, you're like, what is going on in this church?
No, you're so right.
Yeah.
It was actually because I was feeling the same thing, that it was feeling like a carry-on, a continuation of that same
Yeah.
theme of like crazy cult,
Yeah.
look out. Like, I mean, this is way more, deep diving into the tragic
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
that one. But like they're on an island. So like for those who don't know anything about the story, they're on this island. Do you know what was the name of it? Do you remember the name of the town or the island?
They called it Crockpot, but I think it was like Crock something.
Oh, right, yeah, but it was nicknamed the Crockpot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember the name of it. But so they're all on this island that used to be thriving with fishing industry, and then there was an oil spill, and that kind of really took the whole town down basically. And they've been trying to survive basically since then. And then you've got a main character who had, I don't know how much this, I mean, they say it early on, but like he was involved in a major accident where
company, right?
What's that?
Oh, you meant what he did? Yeah.
Yeah. So he was in a tech company. Yeah, he was a startup company, and he was kind of like one of those that was going to be like a success story, and ends up, in a major accident, and tragically kills a girl. And it's his story of bouncing back from that a bit and coming home, and oh gosh, it's just there's so much there, but
there's so many layers.
There's so many layers. And the spiritual nature of it, it's so, I mean, it's deep in spirituality, but then there's like so much like cultish twisting and perversion of the gospel in so many different ways. And like the main lady in the church, I can't remember, is it Bev? Is that her name?
Bev. Oh, I did not like Bev.
Man, nobody did. Nobody liked Bev. But Bev had every verse in the Bible like cataloged in her brain, it seemed like.
Yes, and she could make it like for every situation. Like she was justifying everything.
Yeah, and that's the scary thing. When you have the word so down, but you don't have it in. You know what I mean? Like it, but it's not like the spirit isn't actually in you. Exactly. So then you can then pull out the word, and in the same way that the devil pulled out the word on Jesus, but for real jacked up purposes, and that's what we saw a lot of in that show. But it was so good, and I was worried it was going to be like heavy horror, because that was kind of a sense of like, I think actually Pastor Carter had mentioned to me once the haunting on whatever
the Hill House. That one is scarier, but the story behind that one is so good too, and I think they're jump scares. It's not like to me, there's jump scares and then there's devil scare, and I can't do devil scare.
Right.
So Haunted Hill House is more jump scare.
See, and when I heard haunting on whatever, I immediately put that into that bucket of like, I don't know if I want to mess with that. But now having seen this one, now I feel like, oh, you know what? Let me go check those other ones out, because the story was compelling enough. And each episode, it's like an hour-long episode, and it was good. It was really good.
Yeah. And I watched The Haunted Hill House over 5 times. So that just tells you how good.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna check that out next.
Really good story. Yeah. But Midnight Mass was equally, I was like, he did it again. That was so good.
Nice. Okay, so now let's transition to something else that we've been trying to talk about for a while. We've been trying to talk about my experience at the Cubs game. Now, I mean, the World Series has happened. The Braves have won. So congratulations to the Atlanta Braves. But
Yes.
a while back, I went to a Cubs game.
Yeah,
And
you did.
I'm a Sox fan. I don't want to say by birth, but I grew up in the South suburbs, church on the South side. So the Sox have been my team. But I've been in an accountability group with a couple other guys within our network, and one of them got ticket to the game, and they made this case for taking our accountability on the road and going to see the game on an accountability night. And one of the things that I've loved about this we call it a discipleship triad, is that we're not like rigid in our structure and how things are done. We just recognize the point is holding each other accountable, confessing our sins to one another, talking about where we are with God and in the Word. And it's a really deep and rich time. And quick side note before we go to that bit, that's one of the things that I worry about the church today as we continue to progress doing more and more things digitally. Not that clearly I don't have a problem with digital, right? but if digital, and by that I mean like if just watching a sermon becomes church for so many people, I worry. Because what can happen is that you then start to believe that all you need is to watch a sermon, and you're good with what it means to be a Christian and follow Jesus. And the truth is, there's definitely way more than that. First of all, there's the one another's that you need one another in order to actually do, like love one another, trust, and all that stuff that like involves like caring for, serving, be humble towards one another. And you don't get that by just showing up and watching a thing. Now you can do digital and get that, like in the way that you and I could engage like right now. And in conversations, you could call me out and say, hey, what did you think about what the pastor said in this segment of the sermon? I feel like that doesn't line up with what I see you doing on, you know what I mean? Like that holding accountable, holding one another accountable is something that I get worried is going to go missing, because we can just start watching a sermon, and then as soon as they say something that we're like, nah, I don't like that. That's gonna make me uncomfortable, because that's gonna call me to change, or that's gonna have me like, I don't know, repent. Then you're tempted to then just switch the channel. Go check out another podcast, listen to a different sermon, and you're not actually able to then allow the Holy Spirit to challenge and confront you. So there's that.
Exactly, that's true. I never thought about it like that, but you can cherry pick your message and just be like, okay, I'm comfortable with this level of Lord.
Right.
I'm gonna go deeper.
But that being a part of a Christian community, even so, you can do digital Christian community if you want, you know what I mean, so that you're actually connecting with people and you're holding one another accountable. And I still think, as best as you can, you want to be in physical proximity at some point to some believers in order to have other, like a freaking hug sometimes or something, but at the same time, like I just worry that now that we've gotten better at doing digital, people are going to just try to replace watching a sermon and make that all of church. But that wasn't the point. That wasn't the point. The point was we did accountability on our way to the Cubs game, and then we watched the Cubs game, and there was a great lesson, I think, baked in to that experience. So let's go ahead and watch a quick clip of that, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
So, now I hate to do this to you. We got to put it on the record. You had some thoughts about Hayward earlier in the game.
I think every Cubs fan has their thoughts about Hayward over the past, I don't know, 6 years.
Yeah.
But he came through today. That's all that matters.
Came through today. What have you done for me lately? He won the game. There you go.
I took it more as constructive criticism, you know? So it worked out, you know? It all worked out.
You know, we spent some time talking about just the difficulties that the team has had recently with some of their star players being traded. And really the difficulties haven't been so much for the team as much as for the fans. Like, they traded away, I think it was like 9 players within a week during the time right before the trading deadline. Or maybe it was right when, I don't know, they traded a bunch. But there was this huge sense on the fans that they were giving up, that it was all over, that, you know, yeah, we're now in the rebuilding season, and everybody just so upset. And I get it. If it was my team, I would totally be right there with them on that. And then Rob, one of the guys in our triad, he mentioned something that was interesting. He said that they've won like 8 out of the last 10 games, something like that. They've been on a hot streak recently. And the thing that struck in me was like, no one expected that, right? The unexpected was happening, that this team with a bunch of young guys who didn't really know what they were doing was really finding success. And it was funny that Rob said, talking about one of the older vets who isn't really known for his bat, but is a really good defender, you know, is out in the field with his glove. He's got a really good glove. Hayward. He talked about how Hayward, when he came up to the plate one time early in the game, he's like, this is the guy they should have traded. And he was just remarking on how, you know, I'm looking at his stats. He's got a low batting average, doesn't have a whole lot of home runs and, you know, any real significant hits. So it was like, wow, yeah. And then he was remarking later that maybe it was because of his defensive skills. And then the end of the game came about. It's tied up. They are, you know, now going into extra innings. And Hayward comes up with 2 guys on, and he hits a home run. And that, like, sent the whole stadium up in arms. Everybody's going nuts, Rob included. And it was interesting, the thought there being like the one that you least expected, right? The one that he was remarking on did not have the bat, was the one that came through in the clutch and won the game. And I think between both of those examples of the team that's like young and unaccomplished, having a run here, and the guy who's not known for his bat knocking it out of the park, I think yet again the Lord is reminding us that don't count people out, that things don't always go the way that we expect, that though things may be looking like a trajectory is in the dumps and is something that will never pan out the way that we hope, the way that we plan, the way that we dream, that we should not give up hope. Hope while there is hope to be had.
So, I mean, that whole conversation about, the way that we might expect things to be one way, and then God shows up and it completely goes in a different way. What did that talk about, the unexpected and God showing up, kind of triggering you?
It reminded me of a time when Liam was born. As you know, he was diagnosed with autism, and so he didn't talk. And so we had therapists coming in and out, and it was kind of one of those things. It's like, is he gonna talk? And you have to kind of just get to the point where it's like, if he doesn't talk, God is still good, and he's still gonna be good, and it'll just be good. Right. And, just one day he was like, a little after 3, he just started talking, and now he just doesn't stop. So it's just, one of those things where I think I had to get okay with, if he doesn't speak, it's still good. God's still good. And that doesn't mean I did anything wrong. Nick did anything wrong. That's just what it is. And he's talking now, and it's just been amazing to see how he's able to express himself and his needs, and how we're able to just get a lot more things done. He still has his challenges, but that's just one of the things that how I've seen the Lord just show up when, it wasn't expected.
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing where you're going through it like with one expectation, like this is what we're coming to know. And that's where we're at right now with Mateo, where it's like just kind of like settling in with this is where it is, and I feel like you even sharing that like challenges me to hope again, and to believe that God can do abundantly more than I ask or think, and it's one of those scriptures that I actually keep it posted up right here above my desk. Now to him who is able to do far more abundantly than all that we can ask or think, according to the power at work within us. It's like, come on.
Yes.
But then I look at life, and sometimes I just like, well, maybe not in this area.
Yeah.
And I get tempted to stop believing that God can blow my expectations away.
Yeah.
So hearing stories like that, hearing testimonies of how God shows up when it and the way you said it was like, and one day he just was talking.
It was like a switch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Like I can't imagine, but I can't imagine, but like he's able to do more than I can imagine.
Exactly.
Oh man, wow, praise God. So I'm challenged to get back before the Lord in prayer in regards to that again.
I will join you in that.
Yeah. And if he doesn't, he's still good.
Yeah, if
he's
he doesn't,
still God, and he's still good.
Yes, and he'll be all good.
Amen. Wow, good stuff. Thank you so much for sharing that, Jarael. So now let's go ahead and get into our interview for the day. We had a great time sitting down with my brother Anthony Bobo Jr., where he shared a bit about his story, some of the journey that he's been on, and then we'll come back and talk about it. Well, hey, you guys, we are here with another episode of the Freedom Storyteller podcast, and I'm excited to introduce you all to my brother, Anthony Bobo Jr. He's a senior associate with the Joseph Factor Group. And Anthony, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, man, it is just so great to be here. Like, you've been talking to me about this for so long, and I'm finally on your podcast.
Here we go. Well, hey, before we really get into the first deep question, I want you to tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
So, my name is Anthony Bobo Jr. I actually live in the Washington, D.C. area. Been here almost 30 years with my lovely family, my wife and 2 children. And yeah, we're just striving our best to love and community, and do what we can to improve our little space in the world. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, one of the primary questions that I like to ask folks, and I really think it's the driving question of this entire conversation. We talk about freedom and the story of us walking closer and closer to freedom. So for you, what would your freedom story be? And by that, we're really talking about your story with coming to know who Jesus is and surrendering to him. So what would you describe that to be?
Yeah, so that's an interesting story for me. So you have these dynasties, and even if we talk about the United States, of like Rockefellers or rich people, you look at the Bushes, they're like politics, or Kennedy's politics. Man, in my family, everybody was in ministry. Like I can look back to my great granddad that was a minister in the church. So I'm talking about my great granddad, my great grandmother, my grandfather, my grandmother, my pop, and my mom, all involved in ministry. And so I come from that line. And even my sister and my brothers, we're still all involved in ministry. So even with that rich heritage and walking with the Lord and being around church my entire life, there's a difference of like, let me see, it's a difference between being a member of the church, Jarael, and the understanding that you're a part of this family and who Jesus really is and who he can be in your life. Yeah. So for me, I remember we were in Tampa, Florida, where my dad was pastoring, and
is that where you grew up? So that's where you grew up, in Tampa?
So, well, I was born, like I said, this is a journey because he was in several places. So born in Columbus, Ohio, around the age of 7, he was assigned to a church in Atlanta, Georgia. And then at the age of, I was probably around 15 or 16, we moved to Tampa, Florida, and that's where I finished high school. And then I came to the Washington, D.C. area to go to college. I actually went to Bowie State University. Shout out to historic Black colleges.
There you go.
Yeah. So, but I remember I had to be around the age of 15 or 16, and this minister came and was sharing at our church. And I could just see the love that he had for the people. And then I could see this prophetic word that he was giving. And I don't remember the message, like what he was actually saying, but I could feel what was there. And I said, wow, what he has, that's what I want. What he has, I can give my life to that. And so I marked that as my moment that I understood that I wanted to have a strong relationship with Christ and to give my life to him.
Wow. Well,
of course, since that moment, even being so young, there are a lot of other challenges, a lot of other exploring, and even if you will, mistakes or whatever. But I always knew that I wanted to live a life close to Christ, and I wanted to give myself to help others. So even you fast forward to the Joseph Factor group, which I'll talk a little bit more about that. That's a group of Christians that we've come together that we can help others, whether it's churches, individuals, organizations, to fulfill their ultimate purpose. And when we talk about that, of course, we're talking about the mission that God has put, the purpose that God has put in their life. Yeah. And I've learned that my purpose for living is, I don't necessarily have to be the one in leadership, but I want to be there, the one supporting the leader, the one that name is never called, but always the one that's there that the leader can depend on to get things done, and that they don't have to worry about whatever that thing is that they normally have to worry about, because I know Bobo got it. I know Bobo got it. That's the whole thing. And there used to be a time, and I was talking to a friend about it this week. coming up and playing basketball in the hood or whatever, everybody wants to be the one making the scores, making the shots, dunking or whatever else. And man, there came a time in my life I understood, like, I admired Dennis Rodman because he played his role. Like, where he was there, he was a difference maker, things like that. And you wanted him on the team because you knew he was going to do his thing. He might have scored a bunch of points, whatever else. I mean, man, the stadium would go crazy even if he scored 1 point,
Right.
But he was there on defense. He was going to get the rebounds. He was going to hustle. And for me, that's where I am. I want to be that dependable one beside the leader, making sure that things are getting done, and ultimately, helping to see, the life of Christ lived out in others.
Yeah, man, that's so beautiful. I'm just going to interject real quick just to affirm what you just said, because where I know you now is this ongoing cohort that we've been a part of for almost a year now, and you've been like the stable face of that cohort, the one who and it's so beautifully named too. The name of the cohort is the Aaron and her cohort, which the whole point is they're not Moses, right?
Exactly.
Everybody knows Moses. Moses is the one who got the tablets. Moses is the one who held up the staff. But like, they're holding up his arms as he holds the staff, and you have been a great testament to what that is and the importance of that. And that's why you one of the first ones I was like, I want to talk to this brother, because I know, because you've established a consistent place in my life in over this past year as someone I know, like,
so much.
As a rock, so to speak, in that regard. So I can
definitely. So
definitely.
You gotta allow me now that you brought it up, man. Like, that's one of my greatest things that I'm so proud of right now. You both individually and that collective group, walking together during this pandemic, right? How I mean, we couldn't have known how this was going to work out, right? But now we're connecting through Zoom, and having shared experiences. And every time we get together, and I know some people say this and it's overkill, but every time we get together, like, the presence of God is there. And what he shows us, and those are collective experiences, I'm just like, sometimes those nights I can't sleep because I'm just like, what was that? And you play it back in your mind. And so I'm grateful for this time with you. I'm grateful for you being a part of that cohort. And we're looking forward to December 3rd and 4th, meeting in Tampa and closing that thing out. But that's if you want to ask what makes me smile at this moment is that cohort. Now, it's also giving me the biggest headache at this moment because we're going to the closeout. So
right. So all the logistics.
Yes. But that's awesome. Thanks for raising that, because we're excited about that work.
That's super amazing. Now, so just to bring it back now to a bit of your foundational development. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna take it back. So you said it was around 16 when you had that moment that you keep going back to. So after 16, at that point, while you're not perfect and you're still, you're young in the Lord, but you're in the Lord, right? Were there some significant places you tried to step into, either your calling or places where you were trying to, employ your faith in a larger way than you had the first, 16 years, and maybe walk us through what some of those experiences were like?
Yeah. So then, definitely living in my parents' house, I had to continue to do church.
Right.
But going away to college, I was still involved in church. And I was actually under a pastor that she was so amazing. She was so amazing. Now, for some people, that's going to be like, oh, yes. She was so amazing.
Right.
And she had this ability to understand people. And with me personally, we gained such a great relationship. And she taught me how to do ministry. So when I would often, and she was an older lady, so I would often drive her whether long distances with my family or if we were doing things in the area. But wow, how we would go and visit the sick and how she would care for them, and always leaving them uplifted and happy. When we would sometimes, and this was the old school kind of mentality, we would go to people's houses that were in times of trouble, and she would go in and say, "Well, can I do the dishes for you?" Things like that,
like practical help.
That's the type of, yeah. Oh yeah, right. And knowing that there were these needs, and so she taught me a lot. She also taught me. I went to school for business, and she taught me through the use by using me, how you use people in their gifts and their talents where they are, and not try to make them do something that they are not. So she used me and some of my other colleagues that were around the same age, all in school, in our giftings and our talents, and she did it with no reservation. And so under her, I learned a lot about ministry and how to care for others. I learned a lot about organizations and systems, and I always was able to ask her questions. And I think about it even towards the end of her life, which I didn't know that she was sick, but I didn't know that she would leave so soon. Most recently, it was actually 2 years ago. Well, at the beginning of the pandemic, Pastor John Perkins in Jackson, Mississippi, and we released our book, Commission to Love. And before she passed, she told me, "I can't wait until you publish your book." Now, I would share with her, "Hey, I want to publish a book." She never saw that book, but she told me before she passed that she couldn't wait to do that. And actually, I was a part of a cohort for the Christian Community Development Association, and I had to leave one of the cohorts early to come back to DC to attend her funeral. And I think it's so like God that the person that introduced me to Christian Community Development, I end up writing a book with him, and we publish it. And she would say that, "I can't wait until you publish your book." So grateful for that. And then I would have to share that my dad, he's always been a guy that gets things done. So he was got his doctorate from Jackson State. And while he was there in that area, he developed a relationship with Dr. John Perkins. And he actually was on his board for the Spencer Perkins Center there in Jackson, which is an international center.
Can you, before you go further into that, can you give folks that don't know who Dr. John Perkins is a brief nugget of an overview? I just know because I discovered him maybe 5 years ago, and I feel ashamed that I just discovered him then. So I gotta imagine that there are others who are, as I was, that don't know of how awesome this man is.
All right. So this is the best thing about like living in this time, that you can Google anybody. So if you Google Dr. John Perkins, man, you see this guy preach, like you hear him preach, so captivating, even at the stage and age that he is now.
Yeah.
Clarity, this understanding of the need for justice.
Yeah.
And being able to speak truth to power. And Dr. Perkins, civil rights leader in Mississippi, did work in California, was almost beat to death in Mississippi. You get to learn about that story. And in that moment, in his anger, God touched him even at that time when he was almost beat to the point of death. And him and his wife and his family have been crusaders for justice and strong pillars in the Christian movement around the world. And I got to know him, as I was saying, with the work that my dad was doing with him at the Spencer Perkins Center. And, you know, we're the type of family that when one of us is involved, all of us was involved. So my dad was like, we're going to have this board meeting and I want you to facilitate the meeting for us. So I go to Jackson, Mississippi, and man, being there at the Spencer Perkins Center and seeing that work, and then meeting Dr. Perkins' grandson, who we end up writing a book together. I tell people I met my brother from a different mother. And to this day, John and I are close. But that was our first interaction, and we automatically, you know, we hit it off. But seeing that work and understanding later on the body of work of Dr. Perkins and the influence that he's had, that gave me a clearer picture and understanding about stepping into this place where there's a breach, you know, even in 2021, dealing with race, right? And this understanding that we have to, these are Anthony Bobo's words, we have to replace this system, this understanding of white supremacy with justice. And and these words and you know, and I have to clarify to say biblical justice, because I think some of the justice that people are looking for now, it's like replacing white supremacy, if you will, with black supremacy or with Asian supremacy or dollar supremacy. That's not going to work. You know, in order for this thing really to look different and to be different, it has to be replaced with biblical justice. And what does that look like? That looks like me wanting for my brother and my sister the same thing I want for myself.
Come on.
And being willing not only to stand up for that and to fight for that, I'm willing to do that in as much as if it was for me, because I understand ultimately when you have and you get, I have and I get. And this infighting that is even going on, we live in the Washington, D.C. area, so in Virginia, man, I'm watching some of the stuff that's going on in politics with that governor race, and they're just using these buzzwords that are to divide. And one side, they're saying they're not dividing, but the words that they're using are so divisive. And so we have to get beyond that. And the only way that we're going to get beyond that is, you know, run into the love of Christ and living with him. So at that moment, seeing Dr. Perkins in action and what he's been able to do in his lifetime and the legacy that he has, definitely is another pivotal moment in my life. And then I have to tell you, man, what you just brought up about the Aaron and her pastors and leaders cohort, that right now is like, I'm so proud of what we're doing, and the future of that cohort, the future of bringing leaders together.
We were the first year, right?
You're the first year. Yep, you're the first year. So bringing leaders together who may be considered non-traditional leaders, maybe didn't go through the formal seminary training and all those other kind of things, but are committed to making a difference in community. And to make a commitment to that, to those leaders, has been awesome. To work with Dr. Robert Owens out of Atlanta, Georgia, and the legacy that he's had in doing ministry, to work with Dr. Ephraim Smith out of Sacramento, California, and the work that he's doing there and his writings that, you know, he's done has been influencing so many, and working with Bishop Timothy Wynn out of Tampa, Florida, sorry. and the work that he's doing there. So that's just been a great walk. And so I'm excited what God is doing in that area, and excited to see what's going to come of that. But so those are some pivotal moments, and there's a whole bunch of other things. But I would say if there were big posts or signs along the way, I would name those as those signs.
That's beautiful, man. And I don't know if I've told you this, but the cohort for me, it came as an answer to prayer, like a literal answer to prayer, as I was spending so much time trying to I think dissect the theological training I'd had from a lot of the cultural training that I'd unintentionally had, and was trying to discern, so what's cultural, what's theological. And I knew at that point that I needed not just Black leaders and not just Christian leaders, but I needed like solid Christians who knew the Black struggle, you know what I mean? And like that I could then journey through. And I didn't really know where to go to find that. And then got a phone call from Bishop Wynn, and he was like inviting me into this thing. And I'd heard of Efren Smith already, and I was like, oh wow, he's part of this too. Okay, let's go. And I've had such an amazing journey of, I think for me it's even I think the most and I'm not gonna make this interview about me, but the most most impactful thing so far for me has been the journey of self-discovery I think I've been having as I'm going through, of really getting a firm understanding on, okay, so who am I in this regard? What is the Lord called me to here? And like, so what is that thing that I've been messing with here? So that's what this, it's been really giving me a solid foundation again, as I felt like for the past couple of years going out in the ministry on my own, I've been feeling like I don't really know what's going on. So it's really been perfect timing in that.
Great.
So you talked a little bit about it, but I want to know if you don't mind going into a little bit more about the just a couple minutes about what is the central focus or point of your book, and then we could talk about maybe how people can get a hold of that. Now I'll put a link in the description for that, but tell us a little bit about the book that you co-wrote.
So I'll tell the story behind it.
Okay.
So I'm in Jackson, Mississippi, and John and I are working. I think we were working on a strategic plan for his new church, Common Ground. And we were sitting around and we were just talking about a speaking engagement that he had coming up at a university. And we started reflecting on the Great Commission and, how we as a church have gotten so far away from this mandate for us to go into these places like Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the uttermost parts of the world. That Great Commission, and even imagining the hearers of Jesus' words, like what are they thinking when they hear those names of those places? Similar that if I had a conversation with you right now and I said Washington, D.C., there's just some vivid things that come into your mind, knowing those places and understanding as Jesus is sharing those names of those cities, people are talking about these experiences, or feeling these experiences that they've had in those places. And so we wanted to challenge the church to say, all right, we're commissioned to love. And we're commissioned to love not only in these safe spaces where, we feel comfortable, but when he starts talking about Samaria and, he's talking to these Jewish people and they're saying, hey, the lady told Jesus at the well, hey, the Jews and Samaritans, we don't deal with each other. Like we don't deal. So what are you talking about? And so that's some of the challenges we're dealing with in America right now. And whether it's white and Black people people not dealing with each other, whether it's rich or poor not dealing with each other. There's these, like I mentioned earlier, this vicious kind of language that unfortunately is even coming out of the church.
Yeah.
In this self-righteous manner, right? And we're talking about, and I thought about it today, we're followers of Jesus Christ, but we're more like the Pharisees and scribes in the book than we are of Jesus, because we want to bring up religious tradition to the Savior of the world. So we're like, hey, how about this Sabbath day thing? You got to honor the Sabbath. And he says, whoa, what is the Sabbath about? Man,
I'm the Lord of the Sabbath.
Exactly. Like, what is going on here? So, so the book that we will call Commission to Love, and it's just our striving to challenge the church, and it's a book of reflection. It's a book of curriculum. We ask questions so we can reflect. And what I've learned, if you're talking about the cohort and how that experience has shaped you, and for me, that experience and some other things I've had going on, like I received this epiphany. My thought has been that I've had all these experiences in life that I can go to people and share it and say, hey, this is what you need to do. Because of my experiences, this is what you need to do. I know the way. I am understanding more and more that all those experiences that I've had in life is to prepare me to ask the questions so someone can know and answer their own struggles for themselves. Not for me to come with the solution, but for them to tap into what's inside of them. And ultimately, we know when we're led by the Spirit of God, for them to tap into that Spirit of God within them and get that answer. So Anthony doesn't come as the answer. The question raise the answer within themselves. So, man, that's what we're trying to do. And so grateful for you asking. And you can get it at Amazon. At one time, man, we were like ranked in the top 50 books in our genre or whatever else. We were hitting it hard, trying to get everybody out buying and everything. The pandemic put a little brakes on us, but we're looking to still do and to share. So if you can put that in the
We'll put a link to that in the description for sure. This has been such a blessing. Thank you so much for coming on the show and the podcast. I know that the viewers and listeners have all been blessed by this and maybe even challenged as well. And I hope that some folks are really going to really take some of the thoughts that you shared here and continue to meditate on those and inquire with the Lord about them. So we talked about the book, and I'll have the link to that in the notes. Is there a place where they can discover more about the Joseph Factor group?
Yeah,
just get a hold of you somewhere.
Yeah, just type in josephfactor.com. Will come up. You can reach me there. I'm always looking forward to connecting and supporting different individuals as you're doing your work. And just reach out to us. We'd be happy to help.
Sounds great. Well, thank you once again, Anthony Bobo Jr., my brother. So what did you think about that interview, Jarael?
I really liked it. I liked how rich his family history was, and just like, the generations of like Christ followers. I thought that was cool. And then what he said about biblical justice, he said, biblical justice is I want for my brothers and sisters what I want for myself. And I think, we just forget, like, everyone, it's not about just us being equal. It's I want for you what I have. And I just think that that's where it's missed a lot. It's like, I want you to have something, but not as much as I have.
Right. That's so true.
Yeah. But it's like, no, I want you to have what I have. you know.
Yeah.
I thought that was good.
And that's some of the stuff that we've wrestled with in the Kingdom Justice Project of this concept of justice, not like the world would cry for it, but like the word would, right? Like the way that God actually calls us to. And I love the simple, and some might say oversimplification, but I like the simple thought of biblical justice being, I want for you what I have, you know. I think you know what I think from it might not be the best all-encompassing definition, but I think it's a great like application definition. You know what I mean? Sure. Like it doesn't define justice in the way that God defines it in a scope, but as far as like me doing justice, what does me doing justice look more and more like?
Start there.
It look. Well, I mean, honestly, though, I would say where we should start is God and like His heart for justice, and what He says about what justice is. But then now it's like, okay, so now what do I do? How do I live that out, Lord? You know, it goes back to that love others like you love yourself, right? That's it. Like that's what it looks like. You want the justice for others that you want for yourself. And to what level are you willing to sacrifice and work and give of yourself so that people can receive that same justice that you would want to receive, you know? And that's a challenge for me, you know? That's the thing that I have to.
Like when you just were saying that, I was like, inside I'm like,
I mean, because that takes intentionality, that takes work, that takes sacrifice, that takes time, that takes all of this stuff that like you feel like you barely have for yourself. And I think the truth is because we actually spend too much time focusing on ourselves and, you know, giving ourselves to so many other things that then we don't have enough time, energy, effort, heart, blah, 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 to give for others.
Exactly.
And I say we. That's I didn't know we were gonna go there, Jarael.
Like I said, when you were talking, I was like, ooh, I got some work to do.
Don't we all? And you know, and ultimately it's the Lord doing the work in us. And I love conversations like this that's clearly part of the Lord doing that work, where it's like now he's pricking on our hearts. He's like tapping, like, okay, are you ready to make more room? Are you ready to make more room at your table? Like I'm just right now, I'm getting an image. I wasn't supposed to go off, like we could go overtime again. Right now I'm getting an image of like the Lord preparing a table for each one of us. You know, as He invites us into His table, like we've got before us this table, and He's got the place settings for us. Like here's what you need, here's what I'm helping you have, and here's how I'm blessing you. And then there's still room for more, for others to be invited in. But what we often do, instead of inviting others to the table, we try to put more on the table. Like oh, let me get another plate over here, because what if this plate runs out? I need another plate just in case this plate gets done. And then I think I might want that over there too. And this would be great. And And while there's other people who are outside who like, they would just love to have a seat at the table. And like the Lord made room for them. But we said, So the challenge is, are you going to now make room? Like allow these people to have, and that doesn't necessarily always look like, you know, you giving away all of your stuff, but it definitely
Yeah.
looks like sacrifice.
Oh, for sure.
It definitely looks like mindful, intentional, thoughtful work to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to be at the table.
Yeah.
Well,
Reaching
I better
out
shut
to
up.
communities that are not like you.
Yeah. Yeah. Man. I gotta
Anthony
go clear
Bobo
off my
Jr.
table a bit. What'd you say?
I said, thanks, Anthony Bobo Jr.
Yeah, see what you started, really what the Holy Spirit started in you, and I started again in us. And and this is what we all need. This is what we all need. This is the way that the Lord works through all of us, so that we as a family can be stronger, can be more inclusive, can be more glorifying to him. And that's ultimately what we all want, right?
Yep.
But we unintentionally end up stealing some of that glory. And that ain't cool. So not to leave y'all on that, but to leave y'all on that. You guys, this has been a great episode. I hope you've enjoyed the combos. I hope you've also been inspired and challenged by them. I know that we have. And I think this is a great way to end season 1 of the Fury and Friends show. So if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. Make sure that you like the video. You can also check out the playlist of all of the shows. There's a link that'll be above right now, so you can go back and check out all the episodes. If you're kind of late to the Fury and Friends party right now, while you're waiting for season 2 to start up, which our plan is to bring you again at the beginning of 2022. So we're going to take a little break here for the holidays and come back at y'all fresh, renewed, with a whole new lineup of conversations and interviews for y'all. So Jarael, you got any parting words for the folks?
Oh, we just want to see you back here in 2022. Hope you enjoyed all the episodes.
All right. And we'll see y'all then. Have a great Thanksgiving, a great Christmas, and Happy New Year.
Yes, all of that. Bye.
All right, bye, y'all.